Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Heartland Institute of Financial Education's College Coaching Program webinar tonight on really looking at your four-year academic plan. So trying to make sure I get my mute correct here. My name is Megan Penley Pickett. I serve as the Dean of Education for the Heartland College Coaching Program. Some of your names and faces are familiar and some of them are brand new. So for everyone, welcome to this evening's program. Very excited for you to be here. Excuse me. Luckily, I will not be doing a lot of the talking tonight because I have gotten this cough. It's nothing other than it's very dry where I live. Everyone's like, oh no. I'm like, nope, just a dry throat. So again, as folks are just jumping on, we had a number of people register. We are so excited to have you. Again, we are here with the Heartland Institute of Financial Education's, the college coaching program's four-year academic plan and really talking about that. And our presenter for this evening, who I'm actually going to I will move that or make her a host here in just a second, is Dr. Tracy McKinley, who does serve as one of our coaches. She is a fantastic. So she will be taking the reins here in just a moment. For people who are joining us, we are recording this, so it will be made available. So if you are a member of our program, you can absolutely reach out to your coach. They should have the link for this program in the next day or so, seeing how we can turn it around tech time wise. And for those of you who are not yet a member and you're not maybe, connected with a consultant, if you're a consultant, you can contact me. We'll try to put that in the consultant team site. And if you are joining us from outside of that network, you can absolutely contact us. I'm going to put our I cannot talk and type at the same time, or things that I know how to spell get misspelled very easily. So I just put the email in there. So it's hypecpp@hype-usa.org. If you would like a copy of this recording later on, again, and don't have a consultant or don't have a coach to ask, you can absolutely check in with them. So with that being said, I have now made Tracy the host. So Tracy, take it away, and I will be here. I'll turn my video off so I am less distracting, but we're gonna let Tracy take it away, and then if you need anything from me, let me know.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Megan. Thank you everyone for joining the session. I am also seeing Janelle. So Megan, maybe you can let me know if Janelle will also be presenting, or
I think Janelle is here for moral support and
wow,
to learn
wonderful.
some information. So and actually, before I should have said this before, I apologize to interrupt. If people have questions throughout, you can feel free to put that in the chat, and I will do my best to answer that while Tracy's presenting. And then if we don't get to something, we will open it up for Q&A at the end. So Tracy, this is your show, and if there's anything that you need from me, let me know.
Wow, that's wonderful. Also, having Janelle makes me also feel even greater today. I will be presenting the topic on the importance of four-year planning. I have prepared a presentation. It's not too long, and I think that as far as how we're going to go about it is when I start presenting, you're welcome to ask any questions anytime. If you see anything, you can also ask questions at the end. So I'm thinking that probably the presentation can take maybe 30 to 45 minutes. And then after that, there will be Q&A session as well. But you're welcome to ask any questions or raise any concerns in the middle as well. So I am going to switch my screen to my desktop. So I'm on my iPad, so you'll see when I start sharing the screen, you're going to see my iPad screen, and then I'll get to the presentation slides. Right, this is it.
Got it. We can
Uh,
see it. We got
okay,
it.
wonderful. I was going to ask. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
And so Jeanette, also feel free to jump in anytime if you see anything, if you see that I need to add something or, okay, so I wanted to start by introducing myself to you guys a little bit. So my background is pretty much like in different areas in education. So I started with a bachelor's degree in English language and literature, which back in China, which is where I'm from originally, and it was more or less the equivalent of English as a second language or foreign language. Depends on how you think about it. And then I wanted to pursue a master's in counseling, and then I ended up finishing a doctorate in education. So I've been in different areas in education. I started working with students on college planning back in, I think it was back in 2015 with Heartland. And so I have had experience in college planning and also teaching, and as well as international education, because I was also in charge of an international program for a number of years. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my passion and value as well. So I do view education as one of the best investments for us, and for our life, and not just for ourselves, but also for our children. So I think you guys, if you are parents or if you are professionals, hopefully you understand this, and you can also resonate with what I feel passionate about. I came from a very modest family, and then I pursued my education, and that's what I consider has changed my life. And then now I'm working with students of different ages, mainly high school students, to help them reach their goals of whether they're academic goals or career goals down the road. So I'm very excited to be here. And then that's just a little bit about my background. All right, so the topics today are going to be mainly focused on the planning side of things, so the 4-year plan. So I wanted to start with some updates of what's happened recently. And of course, like even in the month of January, there has been some great, like groundbreaking news. And after that, I will move on to 3 topics, with the first one being the most important one, the 4-year planning timeline. So there will be some examples to show the timeline, followed by curricular and extracurricular topics. So there's a little bit of that, and then we'll finish with the school breaks and independent projects and the internship. So that's just the outline of this presentation. All right, so I wanted to start with this. So if you have not seen this graph before, so this is like 2021 most recent data to show the contrast between early decision or early action acceptance rate and regular decision acceptance rate. So if you're looking at the difference between these 2 bars for each college, and I am using the Ivy League as an example, but doesn't mean that this is what I think is the best for your students. So and you can see that there's like a lot of difference, especially take Harvard, for example. So the acceptance rate is very, very low, 3-4%. And then for early decision, early admission, but when it comes to regular, then it's jumped to almost 15%. So there's a huge difference there. So what does that tell us? I think the message is very clear. And then this past admission cycle, well, it's still going on, but like starting from November, there are also some interesting numbers there. But I will just talk about these the key trends of this year. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the emphasis on authenticity and resilience by colleges and universities. So that means that they're going to be very much interested in the students' own voice and personality, how they, and this can be reflected in the application package as a whole, but in particular, where this statement can be made or activities stated and college essays. And resilience as well can be reflected in their writing. So there's a growing emphasis on these two. And then a second trend is that a lot of the colleges and universities are going test optional, test flexible, and test flexible and test blind. So I think if you have been to, or you have any of the websites that talk about this, one website is fairtest.org. So you can go to that website to get the latest, like which colleges are going test optional. So essentially 2/3 of the colleges in the US have gone that way. And then that means that a student does not have to submit their SAT or ACT results. If they do, the results will be considered. So that's the optional part. And then test flexible is probably not so much well known, is more for people who cannot take certain tests, but then they can take something else in substitute of that particular test. Or test blind is that the college will not look at the test at all, and it's not going to impact your admission one way or the other if it's test blind. So the test optional, if you can read it in light of what your student wants to accomplish, like or the student sets a very high goal, I think that should be interpreted as probably they should take the test and submit some sort of test scores if they can safely do so. So I'm not saying that they have to, but if your student is like very highly motivated and they want to go to a really good school, and that school happens to be test optional, perhaps it'll be to their advantage to submit the test score that is 75% or higher to distinguish themselves. So the next trend is early admission. So that one is can be drawn from just based on the graph, and also many of the news or articles you may have read. So the message is that if your student can, they should probably consider early admission and not regular. So early decision can start as early as October. Most of them are in November. So that means they need to have everything ready. They need to start preparing possibly the summer before their senior year, and then work their way through October. And then the next trend is a lot of students or colleges are choosing or favoring in-state colleges and then online degrees and a gap year. So that started as the pandemic setting, and then it's still going on. So in order for a student to participate in college safely, maybe a student or the parent wants to consider gap year, or maybe an online degree seems more attractive in this climate, or maybe the student might want to consider in-state instead of going out of state, where it's going to be hard to monitor or to help the student if there's an issue. The last one is regarding international students or college support. That's the other way, the flip side. And then so with the new administration in place, we are expecting the immigration policy or the international education policies in general, they're going to be more lenient and more open to international students. So I don't know if there are parents here or professionals here that are thinking about or are connected with anybody overseas. So that might be a more viable option, but of course we have to do things very safely at the same time. So it's a balance. And then colleges aboard, so this is really probably very tricky. I have heard stories of people having to come back in the middle of their studying abroad. We'll see how that goes. So there's some uncertainty, but then with regards to international education, definitely there's great hope in more students applying or coming. All right, so this graph really, this table really breaks things down a little bit further. So the numbers are, there are a lot of numbers, but you don't need to look at everything. I just wanted to point out there are 3 columns. You can probably digest a little bit more. So the second column where it says overall acceptance rate, this is the second one. And then the third column, early regular decision acceptance. And then the 6th column, percentage of class filled by early apps. So these are all percentages. And then if you look at the first one as the overall, right? So the third one would be the early decision, early action acceptance rate. So this year, I think that this has been a lot of increase in the early decision, early admission. So the acceptance rate may be affected by that as well. So it's still going on, but this is just these Ivy League schools number. It does not represent other schools. Okay, so planning by year. So here I wanted to include this one reference, but of course there are many references. You can also probably use, if your student is signed up for our program, then they should have access to Curricular account, and then there's a lot of planning tools under that account as well. So this is just one of the references you could use, right? If you go to planning timeline, it gives you like from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade by semester. It doesn't break down into months, but it breaks down into semester and the breaks, what your students should be doing. So for example, I just added the spring and the summer planning for sophomores. So I don't know how many sophomore parents or parents are out there today. And so the spring semester, these are the 3, at least there are 3 things that sophomores could be doing. They can be preparing for PSAT or focus on their academics, and then explore colleges or majors. For summer, they could be thinking about, they actually could already start planning their summer, because a lot of the summer programs are opening up for applications. And then if your student is interested in pre-college program, they should definitely apply about this time of the year. And then summer can be a time for learning, can also be a time for doing other things like community service or independent projects or internship. So there are many other ways summer can be used, but you need to plan early in order for things to fall in place correctly. these are additional references. They are by College Board, so they're broken down into even more details. So what I have here, they show you the planning timeline for juniors. So spring and summer, what junior planning timeline should look like. And of course, you can go to different checklists to find out more. So there's definitely advantages of planning early. You don't want to get started with something the last minute or later where opportunities have already passed. So for juniors, for example, springtime would be a good time to really line up your curriculum, so curricular selection, and then develop your list of colleges that you're interested in. And of course, this list is can still be preliminary because maybe you want to keep your options open, but they need to be big enough for you to narrow down furthermore later on. And then you should also keep exploring. The other thing that's not listed here is possibly if you are in need of financial aid, you can even apply for financial aid for suitable for high school students. So there are scholarships out there at this level too, and as well as for freshman, sophomore, so all 4 years. And then, of course, there's the big SAT news that they're canceling on the subject test. So this news just came out earlier this
Hello, we lost audio.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Tracy's, internet is being so funky lately.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was me who froze and I just wasn't hearing things that everybody else was.
All of a sudden, I saw the silence and said, "Slides are moving." And yeah, in Bay Area, it is stormy right now. It's blowing like crazy. It's
Okay.
raining. So I thought it was my internet.
No, it's probably Tracy is also in the Bay Area. So, or
Okay.
she's out in California. All of California feels the same to me. It's very different. And so I think she is in that area as well. So we may just everybody sit tight for a second because I made her host. I can't take anything back. So
If you make a co-host,
it didn't give me that option this time.
Really?
I know. Technology
Okay.
only works for me when I don't need it, Devender. But that is what I am figuring out.
Bring me on as an assistant, okay?
I
Megan?
wish I know I would love to do that. Let's see if I can do I can't do anything on here. I'm sure she will be back. If not, here's the thing, folks. If Tracy is unable to join us back, then we will get out and come back in. I have some of these slides. We will figure that out, but we will give her just a second to figure that out and maybe come back, and then we'll get it together. We will figure it out. Does anybody have any questions so far? I've seen a couple come in on the chat line, but as we're sort of waiting for Miss Tracy to come back, does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask live that I can do my very best to answer?
Well, so far the discussion has been focused on the college applications, right? I'm wondering if Tracy is going to cover, like, as a freshman high school student, what we need to know about how to go through this 4 years. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason that we started with the college planning piece at the end is because we really do, in our program, we really do work backwards of, if you're thinking about these particular programs, if you're thinking about certain schools, certain majors, certain careers, then you want to make sure that you are planning for that in the beginning, right? That if you are an engineering student, we've had a number of engineering students who, because they took an interbaccalaureate, if that's offered at the high school, because they took that particular path, they didn't take certain math and sciences that were necessary. And so they were not able to get into the engineering program right away. So we're working backwards from that. So people have an understanding of what they're working towards. But yes, there are some slides about sort of suggestions for freshman through senior year.
Okay.
So
Great. Thanks.
Megan, looks like you have become the host now. For some reason, Tracy dropped off.
It looks like Tracy dropped off. So here is what I am going to do. She sent me. Now, here's the thing, folks. I am not Tracy McKinley, and she is so very good at all of this. But I am going to do my best to pick up where she left off. Some of these pieces will, we will just do our best to do that. Hold on, I'm going to download these slides so I can open it for everybody. And if my friend Janelle is still on, if she has anything she wants to add, she is. Janelle, if there's anything that when I am talking about this that you would like to add, let me know. I'm going to own that some of this formatting and things like that is going to be off because of just how it looks. But here we go. I'm going to share my screen. And if Tracy comes back, I will happily hand over the reins to her. So is everybody seeing this right now? Are you seeing some slides on my screen?
Yeah, we are seeing, and we are not, but it's not in the presentation mode. It's in just the slides mode.
Yes. So demanding. So demanding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. Here, let's try it like this. There we go.
Yeah.
Just got to choose the right one. I'm under pressure now, everybody. So here's where I think we left off. And so here are some of the things. Obviously, this is where we gather a lot of our information, and then we personalize that to our students. And so we really take a lot of our information and build our program around what the College Board is saying, around what they are suggesting, because they are doing that compilation work from colleges and universities across the US specifically. And so that is why we are referencing this particular site, and you will see us reference that quite a bit. It's also referenced in our monthly recommendations because that's where we pull that information, and then how we translate that to the students is to work with them to say, what's going on right now, obviously during COVID time, saying what's going on in your area. There are some places where high schools are in person, sometimes in person, they're in a hybrid mode, they're in complete remote, some of those things. And that will affect sometimes when they can take some of these practice PSATs and those types of things. We also work with students to find out what is available at their high school. Is there the IB program, the interbaccalaureate program? Do they have AP classes, or do we need to suggest that they look at local community colleges or even online programs right now? Do they have honors programs? Is that student ready for that? So we take the overall recommendations from the College Board and then help our students to translate that to what they should be doing with that. Let's see. So I think this is the last slide that that Tracy was on. These are great links. They're hyperlinks right now. And if you're curious about what is on these, your coaches are more likely than not sending that out. But we can also send that out and sort of talk about, because right now is the time where a lot of students are planning for what their next year's classes look like. Some of these are going to look different. We'll just take a look really quick. I'll see if it, no. it's not going to work for me. So I'm not going to monkey with it. We've had enough technical difficulties. But this is where, some of these pieces, what they look like. This is for juniors. You can see down here as well. Let's see what's coming up here. And so this is another way to really start looking at, this is how we work backwards on helping students really define what they should be taking in their academic years, what their 4 years should look like. First and foremost, regardless of what students want to do when they graduate, it's important for students to meet the requirements to graduate from high school. I know that sounds like, duh, Megan, we know that part. But we want to make sure that that is first and foremost. And most high schools are going to have similar pieces of requirements of what they're going to have, but others have some additional ones, and maybe students want to graduate with an honors diploma or with something specific. So first and foremost, we want students to meet the minimum requirements to graduate. The next level of that is to meet the requirements of either the required or suggested high school courses for the particular colleges that they are looking at. Now, they may not know that as a freshman, which is why we start talking with them about what are career clusters, how do you choose your programs of study, which is another way to say majors. And so we can help them, and our coaches start working with them, to figure out, dependent upon what you would like to be doing, that's going to dictate how many years and what levels of science that you need, what type of math progression do you need, English literature, that type of thing. Foreign languages, sometimes high schools are going to require you to have 2 years minimum, but some elite colleges or colleges that have more difficult programs to get into are going to require 3 and 4 years. So that's really why we start with the end in mind and work backwards. So these are just some of the ideas, right, that come through that. We get at these career clusters and programs of study through Cooter. Those of you who are not familiar with that, that is a portal that we utilize that has assessment tools in that gives some information for students that says, hey, based on how you filled this out, these are some career clusters, specific majors, things like that you may want to start researching. And then alongside our coaches, they start researching that. You can look for, it's got scholarship information in there. It has some specific college and university information in there. So it's a really good starting place. It's a really good foundational place. So that's where we grab a lot of this information. And so here are some different things, pathways to endorsements. And so sometimes endorsements are going to be necessary, sometimes they're not. Again, this is where that personalization piece comes in. For us to come on tonight and say, for everybody who's on here and for every high school across the US, these are the only classes that you need to take, I think would be remiss and doing the students a disservice. However, we understand what overall colleges and universities are looking for. We want to make sure that students are able to do their very best academically, which does not always mean AP for a student. It does not always mean honors for a student. It may mean those mainstream classes, but getting an A in it versus getting a C in an honors class. So that's where working with your coach really helps you decide which path you're going to take. Sometimes from semester to semester if you need to change, but more often from year to year. So these are some of the different pathways that students can take. Dependent upon what their high school is. These are some of the pathways that are recognized, or endorsements, I'm sorry, that are recognized by colleges and universities. Again, not going to be available to all students. Colleges and universities know that. I used to work in admissions in college and universities. It is not our expectations as an admissions officer that all high schools look the same and offer the same. We do a lot of that translating in our own head, or using our own rubric. So we understand this, but wanted to give again an overview of what is possible for students. Here is an example of the different types of sequences that you can take for math, right? And making sure you can see, look at all of these all of these lines and all of these arrows that go. This is again where that personalization piece comes in. Is a student really good in math? Do they really enjoy math? Right. So then you're going to start, walking through what are you going to get to your highest level that's either available at your high school or that you have available to you with a dual enrollment, a parallel. There's a word that I'm not thinking of right now, but where you can take it at the college level and also get high school credit for it. So we call that dual enrollment. That's got another name for it as well. So again, that's really where it comes in, that you're talking with your high school, counselor and finding out what is available to you, what's the necessary requirements to graduate, maybe to get one of those endorsements, and then work with your college planning coach to say, okay, here's what's available to me. Here's what I would like to be doing. What do you suggest? And that's where they bring in the information on the course pathway that you have for your major, as well as your career pathway, and make some suggestions based on that, including, dependent upon which schools that you want to go to, or where that student would like to attend and what they require. Now, there's a difference. I want to point this out. Excuse me, I wasn't prepared to do all the talking, so now I'm really thirsty. I want to point out that colleges and universities often will have a couple of different tiers, a couple of different levels of what they are asking for students to have taken in high school. The first one is sometimes they're not asking for anything specific at all. That's pretty unlikely. Then they're going to have oftentimes they're going to have courses that you have to have taken while you were in high school, gotten credit for, that type of thing. They're hoping that you're going to have a specific grade level in that. That's going to be specific on the college or university. And then the third tier is going to be sort of those recommended courses that are going to be maybe for the higher levels of math and science, is where we see that quite often. There are sometimes some additional pieces with English language and things like that. Oftentimes you're going to see a difference between 2 years of a foreign language or as a requirement, or 4 years of a foreign language as a recommendation. So again, looking at that as early on in high school for the colleges that you're interested in is going to help you figure out what you should be doing while you're in high school, and make your plan from there. So here are some additional planning, options. Obviously, some different sequences that are in here. I'm not going to pretend to decode this for everyone because I don't think I would do a great job on that. But you can see that there's lots of paths that students can take to get to grade 12, which is again why we started talking about that, what it looks like for application to college or university. And so there's a lot of ways to get there. And so this is where working with your college planning coach comes in. Again, what's available in my high school? How well am I doing in these areas? I can tell you that I was not great at the STEM. I ended up being an English major in college, so it totally makes sense in hindsight. And so these classes were really difficult for me, but I excelled and took honors classes when I was in high school. That led me obviously to, in English, that led me to my particular major, which fortunately or unfortunately had nothing to do with what I wanted to do professionally. And I went back to school, but I did not have a college planning coach at the time to help me with that, right? So again, I'm using lots of words to tell you that navigating this on your own is not necessary if you have your college planning coach that can say, okay, you said you wanted this type of career. It translates to this type of major. Here is what's available at your high school, and here's how you're doing academically. Here's what I would suggest. How does that sound? So that's a lot of how our coaches are going to work with students on that scenario. And so we want to make sure, this is a little bit small, but this is something that our coaches can easily do and show students how to do, as well as help provide the first few of these, right? And so this is a comparison of the CSU and UC. The C in this is obviously, you can see under here now, California State and University of California, the different requirements that are required high school courses to be admitted or to be considered for admission into the different schools. So you can see, obviously the exams are going to change, because Tracy was talking about that. Let's see if we can find foreign language on here, or world language. That's really a foreign language there. Is 2 years, 3 years. Again, there's that recommended. So you have to have 2 years. There's 3 years that's recommended, but it's not required. And so they send them out differently. So this is also something, or their presentation of their requirements and recommendations are different. And so again, this is something that your coach can help you translate, can help you figure out what those pieces are. How does that translate to what's available to you? Again, this is from College Board over here, which really gives you a solid, this is going to basically cover all of the bases, and then anything you do on top of that is going to get you to those more exclusive schools, or those exclusive programs within schools, and or meet those recommended classes that you need to be taking. And so here's another piece that we really do talk about. And again, sorry about the formatting when it translates from not being on Tracy's computer to mine, it gets a little funky. But we really want our students to understand what it means to have a whole high school experience, and how does that play into or play with your academic schedule that you are taking. And so a lot of these different things, community service, student government, different academic clubs, things like that. Tracy is back. And so a lot of those academic clubs, things like that, that is going to take up additional time. So those are conversations that you also have with your college coach, that if every one of your classes is AP, do you have time for student government? Do you have time for volunteering? So they're having those types of conversations. I am going to give this back to Miss Tracy. So everybody hang in there with us really quick, because she's got some really great points that she can make on this. Tracy, just so you know, okay, now you are host again, my friend. I walked through the slides as best as I could. So folks may have some questions later on, and I inevitably probably left out some of the great information that you are going to share with us. But if you want to pick it up from here, and then we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Oh, thank you. I did not realize that I had been cut off. So I just wanted to quickly catch up with you guys. So I did see the slide that you were presenting. Okay. And so I just wanted to find out, like, at what point it cut me out.
Oh, what point? It was back on,
was
like,
it
slide
after
6 or 7.
Introduction?
No, it wasn't quite that early. Let's see really quickly. It was back when we were on the college planning, where it had the checklists on there.
Tracy, you were talking about the 9th grade, 10th grade checklist, 11th grade checklist, and 12th grade checklist, spring and summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Devender. So I apologize. I really did not realize that was what happened, and then until I finished my slide. But then, okay, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you guys for bearing with me, and then thank you so much, Megan, for taking on that, continuing the session.
Sure.
Okay, so I probably need your help a little bit. So we would go back to,
I think it's like 7, slide 7, maybe.
7.
Yep, there you
9th,
go.
10th. So this is where I got cut off.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'll go back to. Oh, so these are actually, if you look at the spring and summer planning list, these are for juniors, and it's more detailed than the previous one by the other reference. And so this is saying that juniors need to talk with a counselor or consultant, and then you need to come up. You need to start putting together a list of colleges, of universities, 15 or 20. It can be a little bit more for some ambitious students. And you should also start exploring colleges. If you're signed up for Curricular, if you have a Curricular account with Haifa, then you'll be able to explore the options, college options, as well as career options. And then for SAT planning, I might have mentioned earlier in the updates, but back in January, just earlier in January, there has been more updates, and there are two things that are new. So one is that SAT is canceling all the subject tests, and so which would mean that the AP honors or AP courses are becoming more and more important. If you cannot demonstrate your curricular rigor through testing, or that you're an excellent student through testing, maybe there are other ways, like taking honors AP courses and then AP exams to show that you're a great student. So two is that the writing portion is going to be phased out. So testing, SAT testing after June will not have writing section. You don't need to worry about that. And then this is also can also be indicative of what can happen to ACT as well. And in springtime, if you are a junior, you can start gathering financial information, financial aid information. But just to make a note on that, you can start applying for financial aid even as a junior for high school students, right? Scholarships for high school students. You don't have to wait till your senior year. Those are more for your college education. So there's that. And then for summer, you can plan to get your financial aid information together, get a FSA ID, and then if you need, there is financial aid need, maybe you want to look for a part-time job, or you want to put together your resume, ask the teachers for letters of recommendation. You can even do that in spring, or summertime is when teachers might have more time to think about how to write letters of recommendation. So so that's just, it's recommended practice if you don't want to wait till fall semester to do that. And summertime, you can also think about visit like virtually visit colleges, and there are actually lots of college fairs that are happening throughout the year. So not necessarily till summer. So, but summer probably will be the last stop, or one of the later stops that you can make to do that, something like that. So these checklists are provided by College Board, but they're still very rough, very general, and there are more detailed things that you should be doing by the month. And that can come through, working with a consultant or working with a coach and joining the program. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So this one is an example of a high school with a lot of tractor programs. So it's very elaborated, and this has probably about 13 different tracks that a student can choose from. But that depends on the school, right? And not all the schools can provide this kind of programs. If a school does provide tractor program or career paths toward certain majors, you probably should encourage your student to consider that, or try to get the student to talk with someone to learn more about the career and learn more about the career path. But with tractor programs, you do need to start early because a lot of the courses are designed with 4-year or 3-year or 2-year plan in mind. If they can start, the earlier they can start, the earlier they can get on the right track. But of course, if you get on the track too early and then you have second thoughts later on, it's going to cost you time and money. So there is a balance between what the student wants to focus on and what the student wants to keep options open. This next one shows you just another school, what they're providing, in terms of these 5 areas. So unlike the previous one, which is very elaborated, but this one is still very much a tractor program. So they do need to follow certain sequence. And especially and you can see that there are more tractor programs under business and industry. All right, so these next 2 slides, I wanted to show you some examples of what math or science sequence could be like. So this one shows you a 6-year plan of math courses. So from grade 7 through 12, and so the course sequence on top will probably be like really the higher level, more for higher level students if they're ready for algebra honors in 7th grade. In 8th grade, this is what they can take, and all the way through 12th grade. So they can take higher level calculus. If you're looking across, that's the top one. And then if you're looking at the last column, 12th grade, so from the top to bottom, you can see that the courses are becoming more and more to the grade level, all the way down to Math 12. But somewhere in the middle, AP Calculus, right? AB was ABC, or pre-calculus, or college algebra. So all of these, especially the AP, would be really the one to think about if your student wants to stand out. And then if the student's up for the challenge, they definitely want to go that direction. So, and of course, they also need to start at an earlier point in earlier grade level, right? So all of these follow a certain path. If you start earlier, you can get to a higher level or at the end of your high school. But if you start at the grade level or below the grade level, it's certainly a disadvantage. This one is about science courses. So also it shows 6th grade level, 7 through 12. So if you're looking across from science 7 all the way through to 12th grade, then you can be looking at somewhere in the middle, you can see the AP sciences, right? If the student could really, line up the course selection at the beginning of, let's say, the freshman year, and then make a 4-year plan, many things can happen, right? So you want to plan ahead. You want to be on top of the game. You don't want to plan just for the year or the semester. And also, you want to have that, like at the end of this, the 4-year college in mind. What's your goal? You want to plan in a way, it's like working backwards, right? You set your goal. If your goal is high, or if your goal is really, really high, where do you need to start? Where do you need to, what paths do you need to take? And you can see that all these sciences will end up with some sort of more rigorous courses like the AP of something or honors something. So I think that wraps up a lot of the things I wanted to talk about regarding 4-year planning. I think the message is very clear that we need to plan early and also plan like at least like a 4-year cycle, 4-year ahead of time. If your student is already freshman, sophomore, there may be still things that they can do. The earlier they can start, the better. At the same time, not all the schools would offer the kind of curriculum that I just showed you. Right? They may only offer AP courses to juniors and seniors, or maybe the earliest you can take is sophomore. So it depends on the school. But regardless, the planning side is the same, that you need to start planning now. This is an example of the UC and CSU requirements for different subject areas. For example, if we look at the A through G on the right side, the CSU, and you see A through G on the right side. Oops. Sorry, I need to go back to the slide. So if you look at math and science, C and D, math, you need at least 3 years of math, but 4 years recommended. And then science, 2 years of lab science, and then 3 years recommended. For a very motivated student, I think 4 years recommended should be interpreted as 4 years, like as strongly encouraged to take, like almost like a requirement, and then 3 years of sciences. So if you look at things that way, you can have a much better, you are in a much better position to plan ahead of the game. So this next one is about curricular and extracurricular activities. So outside of classroom, what else can the student do in order to distinguish himself or herself? So I have a list of activities here, and then with the middle, the two in the middle being more academic, right? The honors, AP, and dual credit courses, and the tractor program. So the student can engage in this kind of maybe student clubs on these different areas outside of school. But other than that, if you look at the ones in yellow and then the ones in red, they are also extracurricular activities, right? You can do some culture club. You can also do some community service or athletic sports. Or you could be thinking about student government or starting something like an academic club if your school does not have one already. Arts and internship or debate clubs definitely encouraged. So all these extracurricular activities will really help your student develop very important skills, communication skills, leadership, organization, or like really very specific skills within the student club. However, not all the activities weigh the same in front of a college or a university. So I wanted to throw the question out there: which activities do you think are more important or maybe more worthwhile for a student to be engaged in?
Is this a question for the attendees?
Yeah, this is a question for all the people that are here.
Can you repeat that then, please?
Okay, so the question is, I have a list of extracurricular activities on the screen, and then which ones do you think would be more worthwhile for your student to be engaged in?
I have an opinion, but I'll let the parents answer. As a certified consultant with 2 kids in college, I might know a little bit. So if nobody
Sure.
else,
Any parent wants to take the
And you can put it
challenge?
in the chat too. So I'm following that as well. So we have
Okay.
one. I'll read them in just a second, but we have one for culture and athletics. Someone is saying.
Awesome. Athletics. You have an athletics student. Okay. So not all the activities are the same. Of course, your student can be engaged in, if they're into cultural events or festivals, these kind of things. They can start something or they can continue something. Or if they are really into journalism, they can work on student newspaper. However, the ones that could be more important in front of a college or university are the ones in red. So anywhere from student government, academic club, debate, arts, and internships. So if there are such activities or opportunities at your student school, you need to encourage them and support them and guide them through these activities, because these are the activities that are going to be considered more important than other activities. And of course, the honors and the tractor programs are somewhat important as well. With regards to community service, if your student has accumulated a large number of community service or volunteer experience, right? They need to be in the hundreds to really make a difference in front of a college or university. If they're like within or less than 100, probably not much impact. So the high impact activities are the ones in red. But community service can potentially be a higher impact activity if there are enough hours. The last one I wanted to talk about is school break and all these other things that the student can be engaged in during the break. So if you have a sophomore or junior, they really should be thinking about summer planning now. So because many applications are open like anywhere between November through all the way through summer. But the pre-college ones are opening now. So if your student is really very much motivated and want to go to really top college or university, they should be thinking about that already. And then of course, they can also be engaged in the independent project if they really have some ideas about what they want to do, what they want to research. It can be a research project as well. Or internship. Some schools offer internship opportunities within the school already. That would be great. But if there are no prescribed internship programs, then the student can also try to get some help from school or from parents or from their network, parents' network, in order to set up internship, right? So of course, with COVID, it's going to be really challenging, and probably the chances are internship is going to be online. But nonetheless, this will give the student some good sense of the real world and then what the occupation could be like and what it takes to get there and be connected to real people in the field. So these are just additional areas. Then the 4-year planning. Of course, this can be part of the 4-year planning, but if your student can be engaged in the extracurricular and the school pre-college programs or independent project or internship, their application is going to stand out more. And of course, later on, there's also things like letters recommendation or college essays that can set them apart. All right, I wanted to wrap up my presentation here. We did talk about 4 things. So we talk about the updates of this year. And then the 4-year planning timeline, how important that is. The earlier you can start, the more you can plan. And then you can get to higher goal. And then the third one is curricular and extracurricular activities with a focus on these club activities that the student can be engaged in. And then school breaks, independent project, and internship. What else? A student can be engaged in outside of school. All right, so this last one contains the contact information, how you can get hold of Megan. She'll be our main person if you have additional questions after the presentation. So you can jot this down. Megan, do you want me to get back to the Zoom screen?
Yeah, that would be great. Yep, that would
Okay.
be great. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Tracy. That is such good information. They put up with me for a little bit, but I think that you really, really brought some really great information. I think we've gotten all of the questions that were on the chat line, and we're a few minutes over time because we had a couple of technical difficulties. But if people have any questions for Tracy or for the program in general, we would be happy to stay on for just another couple of minutes and answer those. So you can put those in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask that live. Oh, you're muted, Tracy. Hold on, Tracy. Let's unmute you. You're muted, Tracy. We can't hear you. Maybe she can't. Can anybody else hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
and
there
Tracy,
we go.
oh, there you go.
Okay.
She's back.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering the questions, Megan. And I'm also seeing the last question about community service. So I would think that the student, it demonstrated the student feels very passionate about serving the community. Hopefully it's like this one cause that the student has been sticking to throughout the years. It does make a difference if you can accumulate to like 200 or 300. So think about the Presidential Service Award, which is a really important recognition of the students' care for the community. So definitely a community service can be high impact activity for the student. So I really congratulate the student for having engaged in so many hours, and then for your support of your student activities.
Perfect.
Oh, art activities in drawing, ceramics, yes. So art, visual and performing arts. So art majors, you need to, usually you are required to submit art portfolio. So this is something that you have to build over a period of time, like several years. So it includes all, if the student is pursuing all these other forms of art, definitely they can be included.
Perfect. Perfect. Everyone, there really is, like I said, in when I was doing a little bit of the presenting, a lot of this information is really pulled together along with your college planning coach. Obviously, what's available at your high school, to Tracy's point, some high schools have really broad curriculums with lots of options, and some have more narrow curriculums. And so what's available in your area, how are you able to academically supplement that, maybe through online college courses, dual enrollment, and what you're academically able to do. We never suggest that students only take AP classes or honors classes. We want to make sure that they're going to be able to do their best academically. And so again, talk with your coach about that, work backwards from what you want that career to be, what you think you want to major in, and the types of schools that you are looking for. You can have those really interesting conversations with your college planning coach, and they can then help from whatever stage you are, whether you're in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, right, to really plan that out as much as possible. And so all of that information you can absolutely pull together with your college planning coach. If you have any questions about what we went over tonight, if you're looking for something more specific about what your student should be taking, again, like I said, for us to get on and say every high school freshman should take X, Y, and Z, that's a little bit too broad to be able to say in a presentation like this. But it is, to Tracy's point, really important to start that planning process as early as possible so you can meet those end goals. So if you have questions about that, if you're working with the college coach right now, reach out to them and start asking those questions. If you are not working with the college coach, but you are interested, you can talk with the consultant who invited you to this program this evening, or you can reach out directly to myself, or you can reach out to the Hype CPP. So we're giving you lots of options of how to reach out and find out information about how this program could potentially be helpful for you all, for your student, in really developing those really robust 4-year academic plans, or 2 or 3 years, depending on where you as a student are right now. But everyone, again, this is going to be recorded, so look for it in the next couple of days. Coaches will definitely be sent this. This will be also in the consultant team site, so consultants will have access to it. And for folks who don't have any idea what I'm talking about with either of those outlets, you can absolutely just email me or our Hype CPP at hype-usa.org, and we will get you a copy of this. So everyone, thank you so very much for joining us. Tracy, thank you so much for all of the effort that you put into this, all of the knowledge, your time and talent on this. We absolutely appreciate it. Everybody give a virtual round of applause for Tracy and the work that she did on this. We really appreciate it. So
thank you so much. Thank you, Megan, for making this happen, and for everyone that's attended. Thank you for your time. I'm very sorry for the technical glitch, and hopefully it will never happen again.
well, I mean, who hasn't had technical glitches can throw the first stone. I mean, I think at this point. So thanks so much for coming back on, and hope I didn't derail some of the information too much, right? So everyone, again, thank you so very much. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let us know what we can do to support you. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.